get off.
Happy Halloween, viewers! So today, my most viewed review is on an adaptation of Hank the Cowdog, and I can only assume that there were a lot more fans of that book series than I had thought. To test this little theory of mine, this review will be on the book, The Case of the Halloween Ghost. The story starts out with Hank taking the opportunity to scare his personal rival Pete the Barn Cat by sneaking up on him and barking. Seemingly to get back at Hank, he tells him that tomorrow night is Halloween, the night when all the ghosts and goblins come out to play. Hank's kitty cat assistant Rover instantly believes it, but Hank responds that not only does he not believe in ghosts and goblins, but that Halloween is cancelled. I find this kind of funny, since Hank believed in all sorts of outrageous things before and since this book. In the first book, he believed that a dairy cow was a monster responsible for killing off chickens. In the second book, he believed that airplanes were silver monster birds that swoop down carrying off cattle. And in the 27th book, when he discovers that the bones he had buried have been replaced with Vienna sausages, so he believes that there is a monster looking around on the ranch. As for canceling Halloween, if I were to speculate, this could be in reference to how Halloween's been targeted by groups who say that Halloween should be cancelled, and how their efforts achieved very little, if anything at all. Hank is the type of character who considers his word to be law, despite, he's a dog, and he can't really enforce his word on anyone else except other animals. Even then, it only sort of works on characters like Drover, who are easily bullied or just don't care to argue. While both parties are self-righteous, these real-world groups feel that Halloween is pro-Satan and an attack on Christianity, and therefore harmful to children. Whereas the only reason Hank is claiming it's cancelled is likely out of his bias against Pete and cats in general. Slim Chance, the ranch hand, takes Hank and Drover home with him and tells him that tomorrow night he'll be having his girlfriend Miss Viola over for dinner. While everyone's preparing for bed, Hank and Drover hear singing off in the distance, but Slim hears absolutely nothing. Why? Spoilers.
Wait, you can't do that, that's illegal!
Not really, because Hank kind of reveals the source of the singing at the end of the third chapter. It's a bunch of ghosts. I feel the only reason Hank and Drover are getting into singing might be in reference to the belief that animals can sense the supernatural and paranormal. When I was a kid, I originally came into contact with this story as an audiobook, and when they used a snippet of this song Drover and Hank were hearing, it genuinely gave me the chills. I think full credit for that goes to the author John R. Exon, who also narrated the audiobooks. He has a pretty decent range of voices for different characters, can really pull you into the story, and is a very talented singer. When the sun rises the next day, Slim begins the task of cleaning up his house. There are a few characteristics to Slim, and aside from his laziness, is that he lives like a total pig. This book lists off just how dirty his house is, from dirty clothes piled up upon a stack of magazines, dead June bugs floating in half-filled coffee cups in his kitchen, and even a pair of boxers hanging on the doorknob of his closet. He is also confirmed to have mice, and if you know anything about mice, you know they can spread disease through their droppings. How can anybody possibly live like this? Yes, in a book where talking animals have an encounter with a ghost, I'm finding it hard to believe how anyone can live in such a cluttered and unsanitary house. Slim does a pretty okay job with the cleanup and making his house look presentable, though he kind of just shoves a whole bunch of junk into his closet while Hank and Drover kill mice. And when it does, Slim takes the dogs to pick up Viola. The next chapter is completely inconsequential, since it just introduces Viola's dogs, Jack and Black, who I don't remember if they have appeared before or since, and if they had, I hadn't read those books. Back at Slim's house, Slim tries to keep Viola from discovering how much of a slob he actually is, but when Viola opens up the closet to put her coat away, all the junk Slim crammed into it just comes tumbling out. Viola mentions she thinks she saw a mouse, and when Slim presents her with his cowboy round steak for dinner, they find a dead cricket in the food. At least I hope it was a dead cricket. Because of that, Violet starts to slip food to Hank and Drover every time she manages to distract Slim into looking away. While Slim doesn't catch on to this, he still puts the dogs outside because he thinks they're bothering Viola. After sitting through Drover's whining about being put out into the cold, lonesome darkness, Hank says he thinks he hears something down by the old cake house on Slim's property. At first it seems to just be an unlatched door, but then Hank hears whispering down by a grove of trees near the cake house. And when he goes to investigate, he quite literally bumps into the father-son pair of buzzards, Wallace and Jr. Wallace and Jr. appear in the first book and are frequent characters in the series, though they very rarely contribute to the plot. While sort of antagonists in the first book, since they discussed possibly eating Hank due to being so hungry, following books have Jr. start a friendship with Hank and aspire to become a singer. His father Wallace, on the other hand, is quite literally a cantankerous old bird who does a majority of thinking with his stomach and sees Hank as a potential next meal. So why are they here? According to Junior, they were just flying overhead when they saw the ghost of an old man come out of the cake house, and it frightened them so much that they crashed and had been trying to get their bearings after the man disappeared. Hank and News dismissed the existence of ghosts and helps the pair of buzzards get airborne again. Trover, who had run off after Hank had unduly scared Junior, reports they saw strange creatures at Slim's house. A witch, two ghosts, a skeleton, and a pirate. Hank initially refuses to believe this, but when he goes to check things out for himself, he encounters a bunch of trick-or-treaters who frighten him so badly that he runs all the way to the cake house and hides there. While hiding, he believes he encounters an actual ghost and pretends to be a ghost himself in hopes of frightening it off, only to discover that it was Drover, who also intended to hide in the cake house. Annoyed, Hank confronts the man correctly, deduces that the monsters Drover described were just trick-or-treaters. Going back on how he canceled Halloween. While he's talking though, Drover keeps saying that he can see an old man in the back of the cake house and how he thinks he's a ghost. Hank of course refuses to believe this until he turns around and sees the man for himself. And although he attempts to keep his cool by suggesting the pair get out of the cake house, they're trapped inside when the doors slam shut. It's here where we return to the song from earlier, an old hymn led by the man, where he's joined by a chorus of disembodied voices. Again, when I heard this on audiobook as a child, I found this part especially chilling, primarily due to how John, the backup singers, performed it, and the audio edited to make them sound as haunting as possible. Once the song is over, the guest finally notices the dogs, and an adrenaline-fueled Hank literally busts down the door, and him and Drover run all the way back to Slim's house, insisting on staying in the pickup, while Slim gives Viola a ride home. Prompted by Viola noticing just how scared the dogs are, Slim recounts the time a neighbor came over when he first moved into his house, and told him how the old cake house on his property was once a small church house that's meant to be haunted by the ghost of a preacher who died during a revival service. Slim doesn't believe this story, but Viola confides in Hank that when she was a little girl, that she also saw the ghost of the priest. While this was one of my favorite books when I was a child, now admit for such an exciting title, not a whole lot happens. We don't even get to the ghost until chapter 12. Until then, it's just another day in Hank's life, which is fine. It's what a lot of the books are, really. But when I was reading this as a kid, I found the stuff with Slim and Viola boring, and it's really only nostalgia that brought me back to this story. When I was a kid, the Hank the Cowdog series were my favorite books next to the Benicia series. That's probably because I think I saw them as more or less the same thing, a series of books about animals going on adventures. Now that I'm older, I realize this is an apples to oranges comparison. The Benicia series has an underlying theme of things not always being as they appear, and accepting others despite your misgivings of them, while paying homage to the horror genre. The Hank the Cowdog series, on the other hand, is just a series about a dog going through his daily life, believing his self-imposed title of head of ranch security holds actual weight and is simply meant for entertainment. Sometimes there are lessons to be learned, like how running away from home out of spite is always a bad idea, and don't judge the majority of people based solely on your negative experiences with one individual. But the primary purpose of the series has always always been to entertain first. Given the target audience for the Hank series in general, I can only recommend reading this book if you're a parent, guardian, or grade school teacher, with this book clearly intended to be read anytime during October. This is Night that I saying, thanks for letting me share my thoughts, share yours with me, and have a happy Halloween.